Catherine Middleton never imagined that a simple pearl necklace from her grandmother would one day become the foundation of one of the world's most admired jewelry collections. As she sat in her small London apartment, fresh out of university, she carefully placed the delicate strand of pearls back in its worn velvet box. The necklace had been her grandmother's most precious possession, passed down through 3 generations of strong women who had weathered life's storms with grace and dignity. The young woman had no idea that in just a few short years, this humble piece of jewelry would share space with diamonds that once belonged to queens, sapphires that had witnessed royal ceremonies, and emeralds that had traveled across continents to find their way to her. But, on this quiet evening in 2005, Catherine was simply a recent graduate trying to find her place in the world, unaware that destiny had already begun weaving its intricate pattern around her life. Her childhood had been comfortable but not extravagant. The Middleton family valued hard work, education, and strong family bonds over material possessions. Catherine's mother, Carol, had built a successful party supply business from scratch, teaching her daughter the importance of determination and perseverance. Her father, Michael, worked steadily to provide for his family, always emphasizing that true worth came from character, not wealth. Growing up in the picturesque village of Bucklebury, Catherine learned to appreciate simple pleasures. She would spend hours helping her mother in the garden, her small hands carefully tending to the roses that would later inspire some of her most meaningful jewelry choices. The family dog, a golden retriever named Tess, would follow Catherine everywhere, and she would often talk to the patient animal about her dreams and aspirations. School had always come naturally to Catherine. She was the type of student who listened carefully, asked thoughtful questions, and treated everyone with kindness regardless of their background. Her teachers often remarked on her natural poise and the way she could make others feel comfortable in her presence. These qualities would serve her well in the years to come, though she had no way of knowing it at the time. At Marlborough College, Catherine discovered her love for art history. She would spend countless hours in the library, poring over books filled with images of Renaissance paintings and ancient sculptures. She was particularly drawn to the intricate jewelry depicted in royal portraits, fascinated by the stories these precious pieces could tell. Each gem seemed to whisper secrets of the past, tales of love, loss, power, and passion that had shaped the course of history. Her friends often teased her about her fascination with historical jewelry, but Catherine didn't mind. She saw these pieces as more than mere accessories. They were tangible connections to the women who had worn them, each one carrying the weight of its owner's hopes, fears, and dreams. She would trace the outlines of tiaras and necklaces in her textbooks with her finger, wondering about the occasions when they had been worn and the emotions they had witnessed. When Catherine enrolled at the University of St. Andrews to study art history, she packed carefully for her new life in Scotland. Among her belongings, wrapped in soft tissue paper, was her grandmother's pearl necklace. She had decided to bring it with her as a reminder of home and the strong women who had come before her. The necklace represented more than just family heritage, it symbolized the love, wisdom, and strength that had been passed down through generations. St. Andrews was a revelation for Catherine. The ancient university, with its medieval buildings and rich traditions, felt like stepping into a living history book. She threw herself into her studies with enthusiasm, particularly enjoying courses on European art and the symbolism of precious stones throughout history. Her professors appreciated her thoughtful analyses and her ability to see beyond the surface beauty of the artifacts they studied. It was during her second year at university that Catherine's life took an unexpected turn. She had been selected to participate in a student fashion show, a charity event that brought together students from various disciplines. Catherine had initially been reluctant to participate, but her friends convinced her that it would be a fun experience and a good way to support a worthy cause. As she prepared for the fashion show, Catherine made a decision that would later seem prophetic. She chose to wear her grandmother's pearl necklace with the simple black dress she had selected for the event. The pearls seemed to give her confidence, connecting her to her family's strength and her own inner grace. She had no idea that in the audience that night sat a young man who would change the trajectory of her life forever. William Arthur Philip Lewis, second in line to the British throne, had attended the fashion show on a whim. He was studying geography at St. Andrews and had been convinced by friends to support the charity event. As he sat in the audience, he was struck not by the elaborate outfits or dramatic presentations, but by the natural elegance of a young woman wearing a simple black dress and a strand of pearls. There was something about Catherine that caught William's attention immediately. Perhaps it was the way she carried herself with quiet confidence, or the genuine smile that lit up her face. The pearls around her neck seemed to glow in the stage lights, but it was the warmth in her eyes that truly captivated him. After the show, William found himself seeking her out, wanting to know more about the graceful young woman who had somehow made every other person in the room fade into the background. Their first conversation was easy and natural. Catherine treated William not as a prince, but simply as another student. She asked him about his studies, shared her own passion for art history, and laughed at his jokes without the forced enthusiasm he had grown accustomed to from others. When he complimented her necklace, she told him the story of how it had belonged to her grandmother, a woman who had worked as a seamstress but possessed more dignity than many wealthy socialites Catherine had met. As their friendship developed over the following months, William found himself drawn to Catherine's authenticity. She never seemed to be performing or putting on airs. When they studied together in the library, she would absently finger her pearl necklace while concentrating on difficult passages, a habit that William found endearing. The necklace became a symbol of her groundedness, her connection to her roots, even as their relationship began to attract attention from fellow students and, eventually, the media. Catherine's approach to their growing relationship was refreshingly straightforward. She didn't change who she was to impress William or try to transform herself into someone she thought a prince would want to date. She continued to wear her simple jewelry, including her beloved pearl necklace, even as she began to appear at more formal university events by William's side. The first time Catherine met William's friends from his previous life, she was nervous but determined to be herself. She wore her pearl necklace with a simple blue dress that complemented her eyes, and, when one of the young women in the group made a snide comment about her costume jewelry, Catherine simply smiled and explained the necklace's history with such warmth and pride that the critic was left speechless. William watched this exchange with admiration and something deeper. He realized that Catherine possessed a quality that was rare in his world, the ability to remain true to herself regardless of external pressures. Her grandmother's pearls represented everything he valued about her: authenticity, family loyalty, and an understanding that true worth came from within rather than from external displays of wealth or status. As their relationship deepened, Catherine began to understand the weight of William's position and the scrutiny that would inevitably follow their romance. But, rather than feeling intimidated, she felt determined to honor both her own heritage and the responsibility that might one day be hers. Her pearl necklace became a touchstone, reminding her of who she was and where she came from, no matter what the future might hold. The media attention was intense and often invasive. Photographers followed Catherine to class, to work, and during her private moments. Through it all, she maintained her composure and her sense of self. She continued to wear her pearl necklace regularly, and eagle-eyed royal watchers began to notice and comment on its frequent appearances. Fashion magazines started calling it her signature piece, though they had no idea of its true emotional significance. Catherine's family watched their daughter's transformation from private citizen to public figure with a mixture of pride and concern. They had raised her to be strong and independent, but nothing could have prepared them for the level of scrutiny she now faced. During weekend visits home, Catherine would sit in her childhood bedroom, holding her grandmother's pearl necklace and drawing strength from its familiar weight and the memories it carried. Her grandmother had been gone for several years, but Catherine often felt her presence when she wore the necklace. She could almost hear the older woman's voice, offering wisdom about grace under pressure and the importance of staying true to one's values. The pearls had witnessed her grandmother's struggles during difficult times, and now they would bear witness to Catherine's own journey through uncharted territory. As graduation approached, Catherine and William faced difficult decisions about their future. The pressure from the media and the weight of royal expectations had put strain on their relationship. There were times when Catherine wondered if she was strong enough to handle what lay ahead, if she could truly adapt to a life so different from everything she had known. During one particularly challenging period, Catherine made a decision that surprised even herself. Instead of hiding from the public scrutiny or trying to dress the part of a future royal, she chose to embrace her authentic self more fully. She began wearing her pearl necklace almost daily, treating it not as a piece of costume jewelry but as a declaration of her values and heritage. The decision proved to be transformative. Rather than trying to fit into someone else's mold, Catherine began to define her own version of what it meant to be worthy of William's love and, potentially worthy of a role in the royal family. Her pearl necklace became a symbol of this new confidence, representing her belief that she could bring her own unique qualities to whatever role the future might hold. Their university years were coming to an end, and, with them, a chapter of relative normalcy in their relationship. Catherine knew that whatever came next would require even greater strength and resilience. As she packed her belongings for the last time in her St. Andrew's dormitory, she carefully wrapped her pearl necklace in tissue paper, knowing that it would continue to be her anchor in the storms that lay ahead. The young woman who had arrived at university with a simple strand of pearls and big dreams was leaving as someone who had discovered her own inner strength and begun to understand her unique purpose. The necklace that had once belonged to a seamstress from a small English village was about to embark on a journey that would take it into the heart of the British monarchy. But, first, Catherine and William would face the challenges of building a relationship under intense public scrutiny, navigating the complex waters of royal protocol while staying true to themselves and each other. The pearl necklace would be with Catherine through every triumph and setback, a constant reminder of the love and strength that had shaped her into the remarkable woman she was becoming. As Catherine looked toward an uncertain but exciting future, she held her grandmother's necklace one more time before carefully placing it in her jewelry box. She had no way of knowing that this simple strand of pearls would one day be photographed alongside some of the world's most famous royal jewels, or that it would inspire a collection that would capture the imagination of people around the globe. What she did know was that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them with the same grace and determination that had carried her grandmother through her own difficult times. The pearls had been passed down as a symbol of enduring love and strength, and Catherine was determined to prove herself worthy of that legacy while creating her own unique story in the process. The years following university graduation tested Catherine and William's relationship in ways they had never imagined. The protective bubble of St. Andrews had burst, leaving them exposed to the full force of media attention and royal expectations. Catherine found herself navigating a world where every choice she made, from her clothing to her career decisions, was analyzed and critiqued by millions of people around the world. During this period, Catherine's relationship with jewelry began to evolve beyond her cherished pearl necklace. While she continued to wear her grandmother's pearls as a source of comfort and connection to her roots, she also began to understand the subtle language of accessories in royal circles. Each piece of jewelry carried meaning, sent messages, and communicated status in ways that ordinary citizens rarely considered. Catherine's first major jewelry milestone came when William gave her a pair of sapphire earrings for her birthday. The deep blue stones were beautiful, but, more importantly, they represented William's commitment to sharing his world with her. The sapphires had historical significance in the royal family, and, by choosing this particular gemstone, William was sending a subtle signal about Catherine's growing importance in his life. The earrings became Catherine's second signature piece, complementing her pearl necklace perfectly. She would often wear them together, creating a look that was both elegant and meaningful. The combination represented her unique position, someone who honored her own heritage while embracing the traditions and responsibilities that came with loving a future king. As their relationship continued to develop, Catherine faced increasing pressure to fit into royal society. She attended formal events, charity galas, and private gatherings where the jewelry worn by other attendees often cost more than most people's homes. Yet Catherine never felt the need to compete with this ostentation. Instead, she developed her own understated style that spoke to her confidence and authenticity. One particular evening stands out in Catherine's memory from this period. She and William attended a charity auction where Catherine wore her pearl necklace paired with the sapphire earrings William had given her. Seated at their table was a woman dripping in diamonds and emeralds, who spent much of the evening making cutting remarks about young people who didn't understand the importance of proper jewelry. When the woman finally addressed Catherine directly, asking where she had acquired her charming little necklace, Catherine responded with such grace and warmth that the entire table fell silent. She told the story of her grandmother, a woman who had worked her entire life with her hands, creating beautiful garments for other people while saving every penny to buy one perfect strand of pearls. She spoke of the love that had gone into that purchase and the generations of women who had worn the necklace with pride. By the time Catherine finished speaking, the woman with the expensive jewelry looked embarrassed, while others at the table were visibly moved by the story. William watched his girlfriend with admiration, understanding more clearly than ever why he had fallen in love with her. Catherine's ability to find meaning and beauty in simple things, and to share that perspective with others, was a gift that no amount of money could purchase. This incident marked a turning point for Catherine. She realized that her approach to jewelry and fashion could be a form of quiet rebellion against the superficiality that sometimes characterized high society. Rather than trying to impress others with expensive pieces, she could use her choices to tell stories, honor relationships, and represent her values. The media began to take notice of Catherine's distinctive style. Fashion writers started describing her look as accessible elegance and praised her ability to make expensive clothing look approachable while making affordable pieces look sophisticated. Her pearl necklace, in particular, became the subject of numerous articles as journalists tried to track down its origin and significance. Catherine found this attention both amusing and touching. The idea that her grandmother's simple necklace could capture public imagination spoke to a hunger for authenticity in a world often dominated by artifice. Letters began arriving from women around the world who shared their own stories of meaningful jewelry passed down through generations. These connections reminded Catherine that her platform, however unwanted it might sometimes feel, could be used to celebrate the kinds of values her grandmother had embodied. Meanwhile, her relationship with William continued to deepen and evolve. They faced the inevitable challenges that came with dating under such intense scrutiny, including periods of separation when royal duties took William away for extended periods. During these times, Catherine's jewelry became a source of comfort and connection. She would wear her pearl necklace and sapphire earrings together, feeling somehow closer to William even when they were apart. The couple also faced pressure from various quarters to either formalize their relationship or end it. The British public had embraced Catherine, seeing in her a refreshing change from the sometimes stuffy traditions associated with royalty. However, certain elements within royal circles questioned whether someone from Catherine's background could successfully adapt to the demands of royal life. These doubts only strengthened Catherine's resolve to prove herself worthy of the role that might one day be hers. She threw herself into learning about royal history, protocol, and the complex network of charities and organizations that formed the backbone of royal work. She studied the lives and contributions of previous royal women, paying particular attention to how they had used their positions to effect positive change. During this period of intense preparation and scrutiny, Catherine began to develop a deeper appreciation for the symbolic power of jewelry in royal circles. She learned about the crown jewels, the vast collection of precious stones and metals that represented centuries of British history. She studied photographs of royal women throughout history, noting how they had used jewelry to convey messages about their status, their allegiances, and their personal style. One piece that particularly captured Catherine's imagination was Queen Elizabeth II's sapphire and diamond engagement ring, which had previously belonged to the Queen Mother. The ring had a fascinating history, having been purchased from a catalogue rather than custom designed, yet it had become one of the most recognizable pieces of royal jewelry in the world. Catherine was struck by how this relatively modest beginning had evolved into something of enormous symbolic importance. She also learned about the tradition of royal women inheriting and sharing jewelry among family members. Pieces would be loaned for special occasions, passed down through generations, or reimagined with new settings to suit changing times and personal preferences. This communal approach to jewelry ownership was foreign to Catherine's middle-class background, where jewelry was typically owned outright by individuals, but she found it fascinating and somehow touching. As her education in royal jewelry traditions continued, Catherine began to envision how she might one day contribute to this legacy. She imagined wearing pieces that had adorned queens and princesses before her, while also bringing her own sensibility and values to bear on how these treasures were displayed and shared with the public. The pressure on William to propose seemed to intensify with each passing month. Catherine handled the constant speculation with remarkable grace, never complaining publicly about the intrusive questions or the photographers who followed her everywhere. However, those closest to her could see the toll that the uncertainty was taking. She had put her own career aspirations on hold, structuring her entire life around a relationship that, while loving and committed, lacked the formal recognition that would provide security and clarity about the future. During this challenging period, Catherine's mother, Carol, provided crucial support and wisdom. Having built her own successful business, Carol understood the importance of maintaining one's identity and sense of purpose even within the context of a partnership. She encouraged Catherine to continue developing her own interests and expertise, reminding her that the strongest relationships were built between two complete individuals rather than one person subsuming their identity into another's. Catherine took this advice to heart, using her time to volunteer with various charities and to develop a deeper understanding of the social issues that would likely become part of her future work. She was particularly drawn to organizations that work with children and families, causes that resonated with her own values and background. As she became more involved in charitable work, Catherine began to understand how her personal style choices, including her jewelry, could be used to support these causes. She learned that royal attention could dramatically increase donations and public awareness for organizations that had previously struggled to gain recognition. This realization added another dimension to her evolving relationship with fashion and accessories. The famous temporary break in Catherine and William's relationship came as a shock to the public but was perhaps inevitable given the pressures they faced. For several months, they pursued separate lives, with William focusing on his military career while Catherine retreated from the public eye to reassess her priorities and goals. During this period of separation, Catherine's jewelry choices became even more meaningful to her. She continued to wear her grandmother's pearl necklace daily, drawing strength from its familiar presence. However, she temporarily stopped wearing the sapphire earrings William had given her, unable to bear the emotional weight of their significance during such an uncertain time. The break gave Catherine valuable perspective on her own identity separate from her relationship with William. She realized how much of herself she had been defining in terms of her potential role as a royal spouse, and she used this time to reconnect with her own ambitions and dreams. She considered various career options and even explored the possibility of working abroad, steps that would have taken her permanently away from the world of royal expectations. However, she also came to understand how deeply she had fallen in love not just with William, but with the possibility of using a royal platform to make a meaningful difference in people's lives. The charitable work she had begun during their relationship had shown her the potential impact of royal attention and support. She realized that walking away from this opportunity might mean giving up the chance to help causes and people she had come to care deeply about. When William and Catherine eventually reconciled, their relationship was stronger and more mature than ever before. They had both gained valuable perspective during their separation, and they returned to each other with a clearer understanding of what they wanted to build together. The uncertainty and doubt that had characterized earlier phases of their relationship gave way to a sense of shared purpose and commitment. As their relationship stabilized and marriage began to seem not just possible but inevitable, Catherine's approach to jewelry evolved once again. She began to see her collection not as individual pieces but as the foundation of what might one day become a historically significant assemblage. Her grandmother's pearl necklace would always hold the most personal meaning, but she began to envision how other pieces might join it to tell the story of her life and values. The reconciliation period also marked the beginning of more serious discussions between Catherine and William about their future together. William began to share more details about royal life, including the ceremonial and symbolic aspects that would become part of Catherine's world if they married. These conversations included discussions about royal jewelry traditions and the pieces that Catherine might one day have access to as a member of the royal family. Learning about these treasures was both exciting and daunting for Catherine. The idea of wearing jewelry that had belonged to queens and princesses throughout history was thrilling, but it also carried enormous responsibility. These pieces weren't just beautiful accessories, they were artifacts of British history, symbols of continuity and tradition that connected the present royal family to centuries of predecessors. As wedding speculation intensified once again, Catherine found herself paying closer attention to the jewelry choices of other royal women. She studied photographs of royal brides throughout history, noting how they had balanced personal style with tradition and protocol. She was particularly drawn to examples of royal women who had managed to maintain their individual identity while embracing their new roles and responsibilities. The pressure of constant public scrutiny during this period was intense, but Catherine had learned valuable coping strategies. Her jewelry, particularly her pearl necklace, served as a kind of armor, reminding her of her own worth and the values that had shaped her. When photographers followed her or reporters asked intrusive questions, she would absently touch the pearls at her throat, drawing strength from their familiar presence. As this chapter of their relationship drew to a close, Catherine had evolved from a university student with a simple pearl necklace into a confident young woman ready to take on one of the most challenging roles in public life. Her jewelry collection was still modest, consisting primarily of her grandmother's pearls, William's sapphire earrings, and a few other carefully chosen pieces. However, each item carried deep personal significance and reflected her growing understanding of how accessories could be used to communicate values and create connections with others. The stage was set for the next phase of Catherine's journey, one that would see her collection grow exponentially as she prepared to become not just William's wife, but a working member of the royal family with all the privileges and responsibilities that role entailed. When William finally proposed to Catherine during their romantic holiday in Kenya, the ring he presented was not just a symbol of their love, but a piece of royal history that would transform Catherine's relationship with jewelry forever. The magnificent sapphire and diamond engagement ring had belonged to William's mother, Princess Diana, and its presentation to Catherine represented both an honor and an enormous responsibility. The moment Catherine slipped the ring onto her finger, she understood that her jewelry collection had taken on a significance far beyond personal adornment. This wasn't just a beautiful ring, it was a tangible connection to one of the most beloved and controversial figures in modern royal history. The weight of Diana's legacy, both inspiring and tragic, now rested literally in Catherine's hands. Catherine's first public appearance wearing Diana's ring was carefully orchestrated, but her emotion was genuine and unscripted. As photographers captured every angle of the famous sapphire, Catherine found herself thinking not about the media attention or the ring's estimated value, but about the woman who had worn it before her. She had studied Diana's life extensively during her preparation for royal duties, and she felt a deep responsibility to honor Diana's memory while making the ring part of her own story. The engagement ring transformed Catherine's existing jewelry collection from personal accessories to pieces of historical significance. Her grandmother's pearl necklace, which had always been meaningful to her family, now represented something larger. Fashion experts and royal watchers began analyzing how Catherine's existing pieces would complement or contrast with the major royal jewels she would soon have access to as William's wife. During the engagement period, Catherine's approach to jewelry became more strategic while remaining deeply personal. She understood that every choice would be scrutinized and interpreted, but she refused to let this knowledge intimidate her into abandoning her authentic style. Instead, she found ways to honor royal traditions while maintaining the understated elegance that had become her signature. One of the most touching moments during the engagement came when Catherine met with Queen Elizabeth II to discuss wedding plans and future responsibilities. During this private audience, the Queen shared stories about some of the jewelry pieces Catherine would eventually inherit or have access to as a working member of the royal family. The Queen's warmth and genuine interest in Catherine's thoughts about these treasures helped ease some of the young woman's anxiety about living up to such magnificent traditions. Catherine was particularly moved when the Queen showed her photographs of various royal women wearing pieces from the collection throughout history. Each photograph told a story of duty, celebration, tragedy, or triumph, and Catherine began to understand how jewelry served as both witness and participant in the great moments of royal life. She realized that when she eventually wore these pieces, she would be adding her own chapter to these ongoing stories. The months leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of preparation, protocol lessons, and public appearances. Catherine's jewelry choices during this period were carefully considered, balancing her desire to honor royal traditions with her need to maintain her own identity. She often paired her grandmother's pearl necklace with more formal attire, creating a bridge between her past and her future that the public found both touching and reassuring. One particularly significant moment came when Catherine attended her first state dinner at Buckingham Palace as William's fiancée. For this occasion, she borrowed a stunning diamond necklace from the Queen's collection, pairing it with an elegant navy dress that complemented her engagement ring perfectly. The necklace, which had been worn by Queen Elizabeth II during some of her most important state visits, felt almost alive with history as Catherine fastened it around her neck. As Catherine moved through the receiving line that evening, greeting heads of state and dignitaries from around the world, she felt the weight of both the borrowed diamonds and the responsibility they represented. Each conversation reminded her that she was no longer just William's girlfriend, but a representative of the British monarchy on the world stage. The jewelry she wore wasn't just decorative, it was part of the soft diplomacy that had helped maintain Britain's influence for centuries. The public's fascination with Catherine's jewelry choices during the engagement period was unprecedented. Fashion magazines devoted entire issues to analyzing her style evolution, while jewelry companies created affordable replicas of her most famous pieces. Her grandmother's pearl necklace, in particular, sparked a revival of interest in classic, understated jewelry among young women around the world. Catherine found this influence both humbling and slightly overwhelming. She had never intended to become a fashion icon, but she recognized the platform this gave her to promote causes she cared about. She began working with British jewelry designers and artisans, using her visibility to support the country's creative industries while building relationships that would serve her well in her future role. The decision about Catherine's wedding jewelry was one of the most anticipated aspects of royal wedding planning. Speculation ran wild about whether she would wear a tiara from the royal collection, create something entirely new, or find some way to incorporate family pieces into her bridal look. Catherine herself was deeply involved in these discussions, understanding that her choices would become part of royal history and would be analyzed by future generations. Working with the Queen's dresser and jewelry experts, Catherine explored various options from the royal collection. She was shown tiaras that had been worn by previous royal brides, each with its own story and significance. Some were elaborate creations dripping with diamonds and pearls, while others were more modest pieces that relied on elegant design rather than overwhelming size for their impact. After much consideration, Catherine chose the Cartier Halo Tiara, a stunning piece that had been purchased by the future King George VI for his wife, the Queen Mother, in 1936. The tiara's elegant scroll design and brilliant diamonds provided the perfect complement to Catherine's wedding dress while maintaining the understated sophistication that had become her trademark. The choice was seen as particularly meaningful because the Queen Mother had been beloved by the British public, making the tiara selection a subtle nod to Catherine's hope of following in those footsteps. The wedding morning was a blur of preparation and emotion, but Catherine distinctly remembers the moment when the Cartier Halo tiara was placed on her head for the first time. The weight of the diamonds felt substantial but not overwhelming, and, looking at herself in the mirror, Catherine saw not just a bride, but a woman ready to take on one of the most challenging public roles in the world. Her complete wedding jewelry ensemble told the story of her journey from commoner to princess. The tiara represented her new status and connection to royal history. Her engagement ring honored Diana's memory while symbolizing her love for William. Her diamond earrings, a gift from her parents for the wedding day, represented her family's love and support. Together, these pieces created a look that was both historically appropriate and personally meaningful. The wedding ceremony itself was watched by billions of people around the world, with Catherine's jewelry receiving almost as much attention as her dress. Every time she moved her head, the tiara caught the light streaming through Westminster Abbey's ancient windows, creating moments of pure magic that photographers and videographers captured for posterity. But, beyond the spectacle and symbolism, Catherine was most aware of the emotional significance of the jewelry she wore. As she and William exchanged vows, she could feel the weight of Diana's ring and the Queen Mother's tiara, but, rather than finding this burden overwhelming, she drew strength from the connection to these strong women who had faced their own challenges with grace and determination. The wedding reception provided Catherine with her first opportunity to change jewelry as a married woman and new member of the royal family. For the private celebration at Buckingham Palace, she switched from the formal tiara to a more relaxed but still elegant ensemble that included her grandmother's pearl necklace. This choice was deeply meaningful to Catherine, as it allowed her to honor her own family's traditions on this most important day. The photographs from the reception show Catherine laughing and dancing while wearing the pearls that had seen her through university, the early days of her relationship with William, and all the challenges of their courtship. Having these familiar pearls with her during such a transformative moment provided a sense of continuity and grounding that helped Catherine navigate the overwhelming emotions of the day. Following the wedding, Catherine's access to the royal jewelry collection expanded significantly. She was given her own apartment at Kensington Palace, complete with a secure room for storing the various pieces she would need for official engagements. The sight of this jewelry vault, filled with tiaras, necklaces, earrings, and brooches accumulated over centuries, was initially intimidating for someone who had grown up with a jewelry collection consisting of a single pearl necklace and a few modest pieces. However, Catherine approached this new aspect of her role with the same thoughtfulness she had brought to other challenges. She worked with the Queen's advisors to understand the history and significance of each piece, learning about the occasions when they were traditionally worn and the protocols surrounding their care and maintenance. One of Catherine's first major jewelry decisions as a married member of the royal family came when she was invited to attend a state banquet honoring the President of Ireland. For this occasion, she chose to wear the George IV state diadem, the same tiara the Queen wears too, and from the state opening of Parliament. The diadem's combination of diamonds, pearls, and colored stones created a magnificent display that complemented Catherine's elegant gown while establishing her as a serious and capable representative of the monarchy. Wearing such historically significant pieces required Catherine to develop new skills and awareness. These weren't just accessories that could be casually put on and forgotten, they required careful consideration of posture, movement, and even conversation, as the wrong turn of the head could send light dancing across diamonds in ways that might distract from important diplomatic discussions. Catherine's jewelry choices during her first year of marriage established patterns that would define her royal style for years to come. She continued to honor her personal history by regularly wearing her grandmother's pearls and other family pieces, often pairing them with borrowed royal jewels to create looks that bridged her past and present. She also began to develop relationships with contemporary British jewelry designers, commissioning pieces that would become part of her personal collection while supporting the country's creative industries. These new additions to her jewelry wardrobe were carefully chosen to complement both her existing pieces and the royal collection, creating a cohesive aesthetic that reflected her evolving role and growing confidence. One particularly meaningful addition during this period was a pair of diamond and sapphire earrings that William commissioned to match Catherine's engagement ring. The earrings were designed to coordinate with Diana's ring while being entirely Catherine's own, representing the way she was learning to honor royal traditions while making them personally meaningful. The first year of marriage also brought opportunities for Catherine to loan pieces from her growing collection to other family members for special occasions. This tradition of sharing jewelry within the royal family was new to Catherine, but she embraced it as another way to build relationships and participate in the collective stewardship of these historical treasures. As Catherine's first anniversary as a royal wife approached, she reflected on how much her relationship with jewelry had changed since those early university days when her grandmother's pearl necklace was her most precious possession. She now had access to some of the world's most magnificent jewelry, but she had learned that the most important aspect of any piece wasn't its material value but the stories it told and the connections it represented. Her collection had grown from a single strand of pearls to include tiaras worn by queens, necklaces that had graced state dinners for decades, and contemporary pieces that would one day become part of royal history themselves. But, through all these changes, Catherine never forgot the lessons her grandmother's necklace had taught her about the true meaning of jewelry, that the most beautiful pieces are those that connect us to the people and values we hold most dear. As Catherine settled into her role as the Princess of Wales, her jewelry collection evolved into something far more significant than anyone could have imagined. What had begun with a simple pearl necklace from her grandmother had grown into one of the most watched and influential jewelry collections in the world. But, beyond the headlines and fashion analysis, Catherine's approach to jewelry had fundamentally changed how the royal family connected with people around the globe. The early years of Catherine's marriage brought new responsibilities and new opportunities to make meaningful jewelry choices. The birth of Prince George in 2013 marked a particularly significant moment in her jewelry evolution. For her first public appearance after giving birth, Catherine chose to wear her grandmother's pearl necklace paired with simple diamond studs, sending a powerful message about her priorities and values as a new mother. This choice resonated deeply with women around the world who saw in Catherine a relatable figure who honored family traditions while embracing modern motherhood. The photograph of Catherine holding her newborn son while wearing those familiar pearls became one of the most iconic images of early 21st century royalty, capturing both the timeless nature of family love and the evolving role of royal women. Motherhood brought new dimensions to Catherine's relationship with jewelry. She became more conscious of practicality, choosing pieces that wouldn't scratch or harm small children during cuddles and play. Her everyday jewelry evolved to include more simple studs, delicate chains, and pieces that could withstand the realities of active parenting while still maintaining the elegance expected of her position. During this period, Catherine also began to understand how her jewelry choices could tell stories about important causes and organizations she supported. She started incorporating pieces that had connections to her charitable work, wearing jewelry designed by artisans from countries she visited or pieces that had been created to support specific causes close to her heart. One particularly meaningful example came during a visit to a children's hospital, where Catherine wore a necklace featuring a small charm that had been designed by young patients. The charm was modest and would have gone unnoticed by most observers, but, for the children who had created it and their families, seeing their design worn by the Princess of Wales during an official engagement was a moment of pure magic that highlighted Catherine's genuine care for the people she met. The birth of Princess Charlotte in 2015 provided another opportunity for Catherine to use jewelry to convey meaning and emotion. For Charlotte's christening, Catherine chose to wear a necklace that had belonged to Diana, paired with her own engagement ring and family pearls. This combination honored the past while celebrating the future, creating visual connections between generations of royal women that the public found deeply moving. Catherine's growing confidence in her royal role was reflected in increasingly bold jewelry choices for major state occasions. She began to experiment with more elaborate tiaras and necklace combinations, learning to balance the grandeur expected at formal events with her own aesthetic preferences. Her collaboration with royal jewelers and the palace staff responsible for maintaining the collection became more creative and adventurous as her understanding of the pieces deepened. One of the most significant moments in Catherine's jewelry evolution came during a state visit to India and Bhutan in 2016. For this tour, she worked with palace advisors to select pieces that would honor the host countries while representing Britain with appropriate dignity. The trip included several jewelry highlights, including a stunning appearance at a state dinner where Catherine wore the lotus flower tiara, a piece that had particular resonance in the countries they were visiting due to the lotus's cultural significance. But it was Catherine's choice to wear locally made jewelry and accessories alongside her royal pieces that truly captured attention during this tour. She commissioned earrings from Indian artisans and wore traditional scarves and accessories that showed respect for local customs while maintaining her role as a British royal representative. This blending of traditions demonstrated Catherine's evolving sophistication in using fashion and jewelry as tools of diplomacy and cultural bridge building. The tragic death of Prince Philip in 2021 marked another significant moment in Catherine's jewelry story. For the funeral, she chose to wear a 4-strand pearl necklace that had belonged to the Queen, paired with pearl earrings that had been loaned to her for the occasion. The choice was both personally meaningful and symbolically appropriate, as pearls have long been associated with mourning in royal tradition. But what made Catherine's funeral jewelry particularly poignant was her decision to also wear a small diamond brooch that had belonged to the Queen Mother. This piece had been given to Catherine by the Queen several years earlier as a personal gift, representing the growing bond between the monarch and her granddaughter-in-law. Wearing it during such a solemn occasion demonstrated Catherine's understanding of how jewelry could honor relationships and memories even in the midst of grief. As Catherine's children grew older, she began to involve them in her jewelry choices in subtle but meaningful ways. For Prince Louis's christening in 2018, she wore earrings that incorporated birthstones representing each of her 3 children. While this detail was noticed only by the most devoted royal watchers, it represented Catherine's desire to carry her love for her children with her during official duties. Catherine's influence on jewelry trends continued to grow throughout her second decade as a royal. Her endorsement of sustainable and ethically sourced pieces helped to elevate important conversations about responsible luxury consumption. She began working more frequently with jewelers who could demonstrate the ethical provenance of their materials and who supported fair labor practices in their production processes. This commitment to ethical jewelry aligned with Catherine's broader approach to her royal platform, which emphasized using her visibility to promote positive change rather than simply maintaining tradition. Her jewelry choices became part of her advocacy work, with each piece carefully selected not just for its beauty but for the values and messages it could communicate to the global audience that followed her every appearance. The COVID-19 pandemic brought unexpected challenges and opportunities for Catherine's jewelry expression. With fewer formal events and more virtual engagements, her jewelry choices became more intimate and personal. She often chose to wear her grandmother's pearl necklace during video calls and online appearances, providing a sense of continuity and comfort during uncertain times. During this period, Catherine also began to loan pieces from her collection to other family members more frequently, strengthening bonds within the royal family while ensuring that magnificent pieces didn't remain unused in storage. Her willingness to share jewelry with her sister-in-law Meghan before the Duchess of Sussex stepped back from royal duties, and, later with other family members, demonstrated Catherine's understanding of jewelry as a collective treasure rather than personal possession. One of the most significant developments in Catherine's jewelry story came with her increasing use of pieces that had belonged to Queen Elizabeth II. As the Queen aged and began to pass more responsibilities to younger family members, she also began sharing access to her personal jewelry collection more generously. Catherine was given increasing opportunities to wear historic pieces that had never been seen on anyone other than the Queen herself. These loans represented extraordinary trust and confidence in Catherine's judgment and her commitment to her royal role. Wearing a necklace or tiara that had been exclusively associated with Queen Elizabeth II for decades required Catherine to handle not just the physical responsibility of caring for priceless artifacts, but also the symbolic weight of representing continuity in the monarchy during a period of significant change. Catherine's approach to these borrowed treasures reflected her growing maturity and confidence as a royal. Rather than being intimidated by their history and significance, she found ways to honor their legacy while making them part of her own story. Her styling of these pieces often incorporated subtle personal touches that created fresh interpretations of classic looks while maintaining appropriate respect for their heritage. The death of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022 marked perhaps the most significant transformation in Catherine's jewelry collection since her wedding day. As the new Princess of Wales, Catherine inherited access to pieces that had been closely associated with Diana, including jewelry that had been held in trust for William's future wife. Among the most significant of these inherited pieces was Diana's famous sapphire and diamond choker, which Catherine chose to wear for her first major appearance as Princess of Wales. The decision to wear this particular piece, which had been so closely associated with Diana's independent spirit and charitable work, sent a clear message about Catherine's intentions for her expanded role. But Catherine's handling of Diana's jewelry legacy demonstrated remarkable sensitivity and emotional intelligence. Rather than attempting to recreate Diana's looks or compete with her mother-in-law's iconic style, Catherine found ways to honor Diana's memory while making these pieces part of her own authentic expression. She often paired Diana's more elaborate pieces with her own simpler accessories, creating looks that acknowledged the past while firmly establishing her own identity. Her grandmother's pearl necklace continued to appear regularly in these combinations, serving as an anchor that connected Catherine's royal jewelry to her own family history and personal journey. The transformation of Catherine's role also brought opportunities to work more directly with British jewelry designers and craftspeople. She began commissioning pieces that would support local artisans while creating new additions to the royal jewelry collection that future generations could inherit and enjoy. These contemporary pieces were designed to complement both the historic royal collection and Catherine's personal style, creating bridges between past and future that reflected her unique position as someone who had married into the royal family as an adult. Each new commission was carefully considered for its craftsmanship, its symbolic meaning, and its potential to become a meaningful part of royal tradition. As Catherine approached her second decade as a senior royal, her jewelry collection had evolved into something unprecedented in royal history. It combined the grandeur and historical significance of inherited royal treasures with deeply personal pieces that told the story of her own journey from university student to future queen consort. But, perhaps most importantly, Catherine's approach to jewelry had helped to modernize and humanize the royal family's relationship with the public. Her willingness to repeat favorite pieces, to mix high-end, low elements, and to choose jewelry that honored relationships and causes rather than simply displaying wealth had created a new template for how royal women could use fashion and accessories to connect with people around the world. The young woman who had once worried about fitting into royal society had instead transformed it from within, demonstrating that authenticity and tradition could coexist beautifully. Her grandmother's pearl necklace still appeared regularly in her jewelry rotation, now sharing space with some of the world's most magnificent royal jewels but never losing its special significance as the foundation stone of a collection that had captured hearts around the globe. As Catherine looked toward the future, she understood that her jewelry collection would continue to evolve, shaped by her growing responsibilities, her children's needs, and the changing world around her. But she also knew that whatever pieces she might add or inherit in the years to come, the values that had guided her choices from the beginning, authenticity, meaning, and connection, would remain the true treasures of her remarkable collection.